All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ben There Doing That podcast and an exciting conversation with my buddy Gene Kiegel. Gene is a creative fountainhead, interdisciplinary artist, architecture grad from UC Berkeley, Central St. Martin's London tutor, and represented by Waterhouse Dodd, New York and London. All right, we covered a lot of ground in this episode, everyone. You know, from USSR to Silicon Valley, how Gene kind of became a tech startup millionaire and how it all vanished overnight. His revelation in Brazil about how life is more about chasing your passion than just money and paychecks. Accidental inventions and how he invented the drone at age 6 before it was mainstream. Inside the fashion and celebrity photography world with a surprise photo shoot of Paris Hilton on his crazy journey in LA and what he went through there to get to where he is today. And creating a new art form, leveraging materials like beeswax and how that represents the universe and where we all are today. We cover a lot of ground here. It's a roller coaster of a life journey, and you guys are going to love it. So enjoy the conversation. Be sure to follow, share this, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.
And they're doing that.
Yo, we're doing it again.
I hope your neighbors don't see, because they can't do a damn thing about it.
Coño.
New York City.
And they're doing that.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Ben There Doing That podcast with my buddy Gene Kiegel. We're in his art studio in Manic Contemporary in Jersey City. I came all the way here from Brooklyn because Gene is so awesome. He's worth the journey. How's it going today, Gene?
Good, man. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
Good
I always
to see
love
you.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always.
We used to be neighbors, actually.
We didn't know it. You were actually on my tech meetup.
Yes.
And then you were speaking on the panel because someone introduced us, and you were talking about your art and all the creations. And then you went home, and then I went out to the bar for a little bit. Then I went home later that night, and I just saw you going in the front door of our apartment. I'm like, oh, you live, we live together.
Same building.
That was kind of funny. So they were like, all right, I guess we're just friends now.
Yeah,
So it's been great ever since.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell the people? I know we started talking about all the different topics. I'm like, we just got to press record because
it's going to be complicated
It's gonna
and
be
it's going to be
very-
all over the place. Just warning you right now.
just to buckle up your seatbelt,
Yeah.
everybody. You're in for a ride. So why don't you just start with a little bit of your background with art and what brought you into art, which could be a whole episode itself, but we'll try the consolidated version.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in USSR in the part that is now called Ukraine. So I was Jewish refugee immigrant that came here only with his parents first when I was around 15. And as every immigrant coming into America, they want to be the best and pursue their American dream. So when I told my parents I want to be an artist, they just laughed. I'm like, come on, it's a
Like
hobby.
get a real job.
It's a hobby. You could be like a lawyer or a doctor and something along those lines. So I was like, well, I really need to do something creative.
Right.
So
You never thought about lawyer or anything? That was just a definite no.
like I need something creative.
Right.
So I was like, I like video games, so I can create.
You can't make a career.
I can create video games. I've actually made one when I was 13.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And you see how big the video game industry got. It actually is a pretty good career.
When I was 13 or maybe even younger, I was in this coding club and I saw this game, that I liked or something. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to create something like that. And I was learning programming, and I was like, oh, so I've actually built the whole game, right?
Really?
Yeah, really built the whole game.
Just code it from
Just
scratch?
code it from scratch.
Wow.
With the screen, back then it was like, to code a dot on a screen, you had to put a 1, and no dot, it's a 0. So I had a notebook of like 50 pages long of just ones and zeros that I had to put in manually.
Oh, wow.
Into the
did you enjoy that? Was that like stimulating for you, or were you like, oh my
here's the thing, you're in USSR, and you can't really get to a computer. So you have like one computer or two computers for like 20, 30 people. So when you get your time to there, you get like an hour or two to put the stuff in, and you have like one floppy disk. Right,
so you're like coding it off of the computer,
Right.
just waiting for your time to get on.
So then you get this one floppy disk, and then what happens is actually when the competition was, the floppy disk went error, And that was the end of my software. Yeah, I had a whole notebook.
Lit on fire.
It was just, I had a whole notebook written, but I couldn't actually play it because the floppy disk fried.
It just broke.
Yeah.
That must have been devastating.
Oh,
you're like, all right, no more video games for
Yeah.
me. That's enough to shut down a whole career path.
Yeah, but anyway, so I went to, I lived in Los Angeles for a little bit first. So I was like, all right, I'll do computer science, electrical engineering, get something
This
creative.
is around like college time for you?
Yeah, like high school, and I have to apply to college, so I applied a whole bunch of like UC schools, and I got into Berkeley.
Cool.
And Berkeley said, you can come here in winter in 6 months, or you can go to community college for 2 years, and you have a guaranteed admission. So my parents like, save the money, save the money. Go to community college. So I wasted 2 years in a community college.
What you studied there?
I did beach volleyball. I did basic math and everything else like that I had to do. Took guitar, jazz appreciation. Calculus,
cultured,
linear algebra. Yeah, I had a great time. But the problem is because I took all these easy classes in community college that I had to fulfill. When I got to Berkeley, it was like to get a financial aid or scholarship, you needed like 15 units. So I already took all the easy classes, so I couldn't fill in easy classes.
Right, so
in
you
there.
only had to take
so
the tough
I had to
stuff.
take 3
Party
hardest
time is
classes.
over.
Yeah. So and this is UC Berkeley, where it was before affirmative action,
right?
Where it was just by the grades. And they know you live in the school, and so all you're supposed to do is study, especially in the computer
partying
science.
over there?
Well, there's lots of partying over there for film students, English students, business students,
Everyone besides
everyone
you.
except architecture and IT and med school.
Right.
Yeah. So everyone else had a great time. I tried, I really did. So I had at least one summer. It was amazing. I joined a frat. I was in a frat.
Nice, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was in one too. So that's a good time,
Yeah, it was great.
I feel like college sometimes is more about the
And
life
it's
experiences.
about the connections I made in that fraternity, and some of the friends I have to this day.
Right.
It's literally from that 6 months that I spent in this frat. That's lifetime long, because that's the best connection you have. That's why you go to college.
Yeah, exactly. It's about honestly, I think college is more about like just the really forming those relationships and like people that you care about.
Because I can't remember a single subject.
Yeah, I did all the way up to Calc 4. I can't, I don't know.
I did entire math. I did the entire math.
All of it.
All of it. And I remember about the math. I loved math. I loved physics. But I had the hardest time with linear algebra. I had the hardest time with it in college, and in community college than in college, even though I already took it once.
You had to relive the nightmare.
And I was like, I thought I'm doing it. And then the very last class with how to apply, maybe it was called applied mathematics. I don't know. I remember it was called Math 55. And it was the first class that actually explained what those things we were learning all these years are for.
Right, maybe they should start with that.
I'm like, if I knew that this was for this, maybe I could, compartmentalize it better. I know what I'm doing.
Right, because I
had
feel like you go in
zero
blind
reference.
and you're just like doing all these formulas, and you're just memorizing
Yeah.
formulas, and you're like, what does this all mean? Like, what is this
like
for?
they never went into that, So anyway, long story short, I was trying to be creative.
Right.
And it backfired because in UC Berkeley, there's 300 people per class, highly competitive. It was like #1 for electrical engineering, computer science.
Right.
They're trying to weed you out because they don't want that many people. Teachers don't grade your segments. It's the TAs. Now here I am trying to be creative, how to get from point A to point B in the shortest possible, most interesting, genius method there is.
But certainly not a straight line.
It is a straight line. It's straighter than going for the regular formulas. And then I give it to TAs, and the answer is similar, but they're like, we don't know how to grade you. I'm not going through all that stuff.
So they're just like, fail.
They're just like, I can't, I don't know how you did it. I don't understand, B or something. I'm like, no, I don't want a B, or I don't want a C or whatever. Oh, also, it's a curve system.
They did that at Stevens too, or I went,
Oh my God, that's the worst. And we're talking like top of the top class of every school, and it's like quizzes 15 points. You miss it by 2 points, it's a C.
Yeah,
or a
you're
D.
like, what?
You're like, yeah,
come
oh,
on,
everyone else got,
everyone's
yeah,
perfect, and
yeah,
now it makes my one wrong
yeah,
is a fail.
yeah,
Like, come
yeah.
on.
So it's really not fair compared to other schools, but I think it's better now. So anyway, long story short, I was struggling with, I was doing it. I actually got good grades.
Okay, that's good.
But then I decided I needed to do something more creative. And I've always wanted to be an inventor.
Okay,
Because
Thomas Edison type.
Well, I actually, here's the thing, fun fact, you're not gonna believe this.
All right, I'm ready.
I was 6 years old, I invented the drone.
No, everybody, I got the real inventor of the
Listen,
drone.
my parents gave me this, they were tired of me asking questions. They gave me this, like they called it a magic book that the wizard gave them or something. So it's an encyclopedia of like how to make engine, how everything works.
Oh, it's kind of like mechanical engineering stuff.
Everything they explain everything. I was like, I love that book. And I came across this propeller thing or something, right? And I'm like, wait, so if I just put and I was into UFOs, right? I loved science fiction.
Ooh, we gotta dive into the UFOs
Yes.
over New Jersey at some. We gotta
I don't
loop
know
back.
anything about that, unfortunately. But yeah, they're not mine.
They're not hitting like your
mine.
secret drones
Yeah,
from the
no,
year 6.
No. So I got out this book, a notebook, and I created literally like the drone you see today.
Well, how did you control it? But
No, I used the technology of the propellers, I put it on a thing, so I'm like, that's how it can float, that's how it can move
Right.
around, the whole concept. So I invented 2 things, that one and a self-propelling water boat.
dude, if only you patented it when you were that young, you could have.
Listen, it gets worse, because when I get to Berkeley, I because I used to love, you love to skateboard.
Oh, yeah.
So I loved skateboarding as a kid too, right?
So much fun.
So, but I didn't have access to a skateboard as a kid, so I had to make my own. So I had to like try to make my own skateboard, like getting the things and cutting it and whatever. And
Did you take like rollerblades and like take those parts off and put them
listen,
all?
I never finished it. I can tell you this
It's a
much.
work in
I think
progress
by-
to this
I think
day.
by the age of 13 or 14, my dad just like finally gave
He's like,
up.
I'm giving you a
And,
skateboard.
yeah,
Enough is
he
enough.
bought it, yeah.
A for effort.
Yeah.
Try it.
I'm thinking. And I remember actually, it was funny because I did the whole, top of the board, and I was just looking for the wheels. The ball bearings was hard to find.
Right.
And my dad was 33, so I put 33 as a number on a board, right? And so that tells me how old I was. So I was 10.
Okay.
Okay, so I was 10. No, wait. Yeah, 10. And he's like, well, 33 is Jesus' age.
Oh, yeah, true. I'm 33.
Yeah.
Dude.
So I was like, no, I didn't know. So I was like, all right.
It's a Jesus board.
Yeah,
Hoverboard.
yeah. So anyway, long story short, I told you we're going to divert.
That's all right. That's why I love this.
Yeah,
This is the whole point of the podcast. Well, real quick.
I was in college, and I wanted to do. So I was like, you know what? I want to do product design.
Okay.
And I had a little sketchbook where I was doing little sketches and stuff like that. But because I did that, I was like, what would be really cool? If you had a skateboard, but you had like a little thing you can hold it and kind of scoot around, and then, everyone else can do it. Like, like almost like a mix of like scooter and a thing, right?
Yeah.
So now every single kid has this thing I invented when I was 21. And I've never penned it. I never took it through.
Like, come on.
I have notebooks.
All
of
your
those
ideas
sketches.
actually became
Yeah,
mainstream. You were
yeah.
onto something for
Except
all of
for
them.
one.
Which was that?
So another one was I've actually saw it one time in a Dallas airport in a disposing thing, and it was I invented a toothbrush.
I think that's been around before you.
No, so I was reinvent.
Reinvent.
So I was
Toothbrush
like
2.0.
the idea of brushing your teeth, it has to be the same as you're eating, so it has to be brushed as you chew.
Wow. Okay. Interesting concept.
So I took this ball, basically filled with the toothpaste and the little spikes around it, and if you chew it, it brushes your teeth with a thing at the same time.
So almost like more active gum.
Yeah, active gum that brushes your teeth. And I had all these ideas that I was going to do something about it, but everyone has their flaws. Yeah. I got ideas.
You got sidetracked.
I got ideas. I got ideas.
Well, you have some ideas that actually happened.
Yes,
Like,
look,
there's ideas that happened.
It took a lot of commitment. It's called sacrifice, yeah, which we'll touch on upon as well, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically I've always wanted to be an inventor, and then computer science, electrical engineering was not really creative enough at that level. Maybe if it was a different teaching atmosphere where I got to expose to the correct people, things, you know, the cars didn't fly right. So
Right.
I got into architecture. So I went into, so I decided.
We did it.
Yeah. So I went into architecture. First, I was going to do product design at Pasadena Art Center.
Okay.
But they weren't going to give me any credits
This
for
was
it.
after Berkeley?
No, I was still in Berkeley. I was going to move.
Okay.
I was going to do that. But they're like, we're not giving you any credits. You have to start from scratch. And I was like, all right, a year and a half in Berkeley or a year and I'm done. Or I have to do 4 years or 3 years here and just start over. I was like, all right, thank you guys, you know, which I probably should have done. But, you know, hindsight, whatever. Yeah, you never know. Anyway, so I did architecture, which was like a happy medium for me at the time. And I absolutely loved it. And then I don't know if I made a mistake or maybe I was doing something right. And now I made the mistake. I mean, no one knows at this point.
Right.
But I decided to make money after college because I had credit cards for the loans. I had, I had to pay for an apartment. I mean, I had to survive. So the architecture firms at the time were giving me like half of what I could get going into IT.
Back to the coding thing. The nerds always win.
So yeah, so I was like, so I went into IT. I hit the wave of the gold startup era where all these startups were becoming.
It's like the .com bubble.
The .com bubble, right before we knew it was a bubble.
Yeah, true.
I was right.
You're right there. You were in the middle of it all.
And I got in. I was like in 1 or 2 companies where I was like literally the first one was like number. Okay, so let's just go to the second one. The second one was number 15 or 17. So they give you stock options as incentive.
Right.
And the company did go public. Right?
Oh, wow.
So at the age of like 26 or something, at 25, I was officially a millionaire on paper.
Holy crap. What was your role at the company?
Help desk. What was I doing? Help desk, senior help desk.
Help desk millionaire.
Yeah, senior. I mean, I built the web server for them. And I was actually in charge of the entire help desk department until they got the money and they got someone older, more experienced, and they you know.
I mean, like, as long as I get my stock options, we're good. I did what I had to.
And then I got fired, and they took 75% of my stocks because they weren't vested yet.
Oh no.
Yes, it's an interesting story. So like I was really briefly a millionaire.
That must have felt nice. How was that feeling inside?
Right now it's regret that I didn't pull it out.
Well, listen, man, I've had my regrets too.
But it was great. I mean, you know, I'm sure my parents were proud. You know, I was making money.
Right.
You know, I was living by myself, independent. I was making more money than like most of the kids my age.
You're taking risks. You're getting rewarded for it.
Yeah, you know.
Right.
So
Top
I mean,
of the world.
it seemed right. So yeah, but then we're talking about the bubble. So from all the money I had in stocks, it started crashing, and everyone is like, "Look, we're not coming from like highly financially. I'm not coming from a highly financially savvy family, coming from Soviet Union, socialism.
Right. This is all kind of new.
It's completely different.
Right. But capitalism. What the hell?
The mentality is like. It's like, you know, you're doing well, just leave it in the bank. You know, just leave it there, don't touch it. You have enough money, just leave it there. Maybe, who knew that, you know, originally those stocks were at $75 a share, went down to like below $1.30 or something like that. So
wow.
So coming from, yeah.
And it never recovered from there?
No. So I think I cashed out with $8,000.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've told this on my podcast a couple of times. I invested in this crypto called Balls, and I put $1,000 into it, and it turned into $225,000. And I was like riding this wave, and I thought I was gonna be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And then it all completely crashed. And instead of having $225,000, I think I took out $2,000.
Well, at least you made a At least you made 100%.
Well, I guess you made your $8,000. So
Yeah,
we
so-
both. I mean,
so,
if we
yeah.
look on the bright side,
Yeah.
it's hard to look on the bright side when you look at what you could have had. But hey, we're still here. We're still
here.
alive. We're
Exactly.
kicking.
We got a good story.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's good. What happened is I was doing really well. And then after this thing happened with the stocks, I'm telling you my life story right now.
No, this is good.
Is that all right? All right,
No, this
okay,
is
cool.
awesome, bro.
All
I mean,
right,
we're
cool.
here. You got all this cool art. We're
All right.
finding out the behind the scenes.
I'll try to be brief as much as I can. Anyway, I moved from I was in San Francisco where it was like this thing, and I was like,
Silicon Valley. That's the spot.
and circumstances, change of whatever scenario. I was like, you know what? My parents are in LA. My friends are in LA. I should probably just go back to LA. You know,
Right, just figure things out.
Just go there, and I'll probably have the same money there, but I'll have some friends to hang out with. My parents will be there. You know, it'd be like going back to the home turf.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Sometimes you need a little
Yeah,
reset
so
back home.
I was thinking of doing that. So I wouldn't move back to LA, but before I did that, because I closed everything in San Francisco, out of the blue, my friend calls me. He's like, "Hey, one of our friends from like pre-med or whatever the group was, canceled out, but we're all going to Brazil. And do you want to come with us?" And I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, I just quit my job.
It's actually perfect time.
It's
My
perfect.
bag's
Yeah,
packed.
I'm packed.
ready.
I have no place to pay for.
Oh, nice.
So I'm sure I'm going, right? So I moved the stuff to storage, and I flew with them to Brazil. And the reason I am bringing up Brazil, it's because before we even had this conversation, or leading into this conversation, you asked me like, what made you be an artist?
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was an artist from when I was little. I was drawing, I painted from like 6 years
Inventing
old,
stuff.
inventing stuff, and really wanted to get into art school. Like, I wanted to do all this stuff, so I was like practicing at home. But to my parents and to the environment you grow up in cold Eastern Europe, it's like this is a hobby.
You're not gonna be a career
what are you
artist.
Gonna do? What are you doing? It's like get a
Picasso?
real
Get the fuck
life.
outta here. Exactly.
Stop flying in the clouds. Get into the go get a job. So anyway, so this happened, and I went to Brazil, and I was scared shitless because they all spoke Spanish. I did not speak Spanish, Portuguese.
Nothing.
Well, I speak other languages, but this is not one of
Not
them.
the not Portuguese.
So we end up to go to Bahia, which is like one of the poorest areas of Brazil, but it's the birth of Carnival. So I was there for Carnival.
Oh wow, that's
So I'm
That'll
walking
awaken
around,
your soul.
and I'm just like all alone. I don't know any of these people actually I came with, like one person out of the whole group.
really. You're like,
Yeah,
where the fuck am I?
I basically just covered someone's refund. So it was a little scary because there was a lot of theft. I mean, anytime you go out, it's like, don't put anything in your pockets.
Right. Don't look like you have any money. You put your stuff away.
Right. And it's like you just go through dark streets at night and you see all these orphans everywhere. Like there's like kids who are like asking for money or something. So a lot of poverty, a lot of people living together, shacked up together. Anyway, after a few days of like coming from fear to like love, I realized how much I love the culture.
Right. Okay.
The culture was it was like a family. It was like if someone steals, if someone does something wrong, as a community, they would come to this person, they would tell them they're wrong, they would do the corrective action, beat them up if they need to.
One of these.
Get your stuff back. It was
And people just band together. That actually brings
never,
everybody
yeah,
together.
that
Whoa,
people
this
are
is
together
kinda,
as a community.
right. You can count each other, have each other's back.
They're not in a rush. They're just. If you're going,
Just living their life,
if you're
they're-
going like, I want to go to a restaurant and order some food, you can't do that in Brazil because you'll be waiting for 2 hours for them to take their time
I
and
get
cook the
so
food.
frustrated.
So most of Brazil that works was all buffet. We
So
went
you
a
go
couple
just
times-
grab your food.
Yeah, so I was an idiot or whatever, and I was like, I want to try this on a
Naive.
menu while everyone's getting a buffet.
They were done eating.
Yeah,
and
they
you're
were
just like,
you're
you gonna
like
eat
just-
some?
yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
I would
yeah.
like to.
Exactly like that. So anyway, long story short, and then I was there during Carnival, so I saw people dancing, loving each other, like being really friendly, helping each other, helping poor children. You know, for the people who couldn't afford to be in a concert, they were still participating. They were holding the rope around the bus. They were
Right.
like,
So this kind of opened up something in your heart.
it was. I mean, listen. This is the first time where so Carnival is like, you know, I don't know if you know anything about it. You know,
I know a little bit about it. I know it's like.
so originally it's like all the top bands. It's another distraction if you want to cut that out.
No, we're leaving this in. We're leaving this all in.
All right. So you have a band, so like just imagine top 50 from the country, right?
Okay, it's not not like Coldplay or anything. More like Brazilian.
More Brazilian.
Bands. Got
yeah.
it.
So they're top bands. They all fly in. Each band has its own bus,
Okay.
where the bottom is turned into like a bar, and the top is a
party bus?
party bus, and the top is a roof thing. And then because there's only VIPs are on the bus, there's the second VIPs. If you buy the special shirt that says you're in that thing with the band logo, whatever, you're inside that circle around the bus. You know, like maybe.
But you can't go in the bus.
You can go for drinks, but maybe just the upstairs is super VIP.
Right,
like
right.
Friends of band, the band, all that stuff. And then if you can't afford it, you hold the rope around the whole thing. And that's how
then you're
locals.
still really you're close to it.
But you're not really. Yeah, you could.
You're not part of it, but you're close to it.
But I got the shirt. I had the
You
shirt.
got this.
I had the
Nice,
shirt.
nice. What'd you do? You steal it?
Anyway,
you're like,
so
oh, with all the
what I was saying is the first time in my life where like I started dancing at like 8 o'clock in the afternoon, and this bus went throughout the entire city. As it was raining, as it was whatever.
It didn't matter. It was just a vibe.
We came back at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
all night long.
This procession takes like this whole time just to get back in a circle.
Wow.
So that was amazing. And so I was like really impressed by how people were encouraging each other, like no matter how bad they were, to sing, to dance, and also to paint.
Right.
They were painting, they were doing they were like.
So you were like super immersed in all this art and culture.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, I'm like
beautiful.
really like, I mean, this is really amazing. So when my friends were like, all right, we're all packing up, we're gonna go to Rio for the next part of Carnival. And I was
Were
like,
you exhausted by that point? Were you like, oh, another part of this, or were you
no,
ready
I was like,
for it?
I'm like, you know what? There's something here. I want to just stay and explore. Plus, you know what? I'll go to Rio later. I don't have a job.
True, you got all the time in the
and
world.
I still had the, you know, I don't know, I still probably had like $750,000 in a thing that I never cashed out that later became nothing.
Okay.
Right. So
Well,
I was like,
something
all right, you
Yeah,
know,
good.
whatever. Yeah.
Make it work.
Yeah. So I stayed. So I was the only guy left in there. Everyone's gone, and I remember. I mean, it's also going through, you know, I'm skipping the parts where I got mugged 2 or 3 times, but
Oh, you did?
but not in a bad way. It was
It was
just
not- it was a
just-
polite
it was,
mugging.
it was just like pickpocket.
Okay.
But basically, by the 3rd time I learned, I'm not taking anything with
Yeah,
me.
like, okay,
I'm
I'll
just
listen,
not
I'm just-
shorts.
I'm
that's
just going
it.
naked
Yeah,
into the streets.
That's it. Forget passport. Forget whatever.
No,
it's like
no,
it's
safer
gonna
that
be
way.
gone. You know, it's no point to even like fight it. You just accept it.
Right.
Yeah, because they're good. It's not like you even feel it. It's like they're amazing. Like,
They're awesome.
they're-
You're like, I was thinking about that career
yeah,
path for a
yeah.
little
I mean,
bit.
if
Ooh,
I
can
was
just-
that good, I mean, you know.
he might still be over there.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So anyway, everyone's gone, and I'm like, empty beach. It's by the beach, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm sipping caipirinha, which is like became
I love caipirinha.
it became my new
Cachaça,
favorite.
that's-
became my
that's-
new favorite drink, and that was at the time I was like, you know, going from one IT job to another, and I'm like, you know, chasing I was making great money anyway, so it doesn't, you know.
Right.
So, but I've realized, you know, I was sitting on the beach and I was like, it just dawned on me. I'm like, I'm actually really relaxed and I'm really happy right now.
You like felt like you were at your source. Like this
Yeah.
is what you were meant to be.
Yeah,
Like
I felt like for a second I was like, everything just slowed down it just became super clear, and I was like, why am I chasing that other career? Why am I chasing that fancy car? Why am I chasing that next girlfriend? Why am I chasing whatever else? Like, why? I mean,
you're always looking at something
I'm
outside
always
of
looking
you.
at
But
something-
like, what about what's here right now? you know?
And I was so present at that moment. I was like, and I'm like, I didn't even have $1 in my pocket.
True.
And,
And if you did, they would have taken it from
I mean,
you.
it was like the materialistic part was completely removed, and I was like, wow. And it's like, you know what? I really should rethink my life, and I really should stop chasing the the money,
the rat race whole thing.
and then just try to do something I'm passionate about. So when I was in Brazil, I brought a little snapshot camera with me. So I took a whole bunch of pictures, like amazing stuff from the trip. And so when I came back, I was in LA. I didn't realize that if you move from like a Silicon Valley to another city, the demand for high-tech work is completely different. So is the pay.
Okay,
So
you're
is
not
the
getting
pay.
paid Silicon Valley money?
No, you're not getting paid Silicon Valley money. And also, you are also delayed by about 10 years.
Oh, wow. Is that even in California?
Yes. Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. I
wow.
mean, not just California. We're talking about. So I was trying to find a job that I wanted for at least decent amount of money for like 6 months while I was in LA.
Right.
And so during the 6 months while I was looking actively and going to all these interviews, I wanted to be, I'm like, you know what? When I was in college and also just reading the books, science fiction books as a kid, and took a photography class in college during summer, and I was like, it was like the years where music videos were insanely good.
Just
MTV, and also like all the budget and all the ideas, all the creativity that went to music videos. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Right.
So that's what I want to do. So I was like, all right. So I decided, which was probably a mistake, but I was like, I was really good at photography in college, and as a kid, I also did photography. Why don't I just be a photographer for a bit as a step forward to do directing and music videos. We're still talking about creative journey and how I got here. See you tomorrow.
Stay tuned for part 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Yeah. I warned you, man. I warned you.
Listen, that's what we're here for.
All right.
We got structured all the other areas of our life. This
That's
podcast
true.
is just about going with the flow.
Yeah. So so we're back to. So I'm moving back. Oh,
You're becoming a photographer.
So, yeah. I mean, let me tell you, like one thing I'm going to slide in there. Yeah. Why I left the Brazil.
True.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Yeah.
So my parents blackmailed me with my cat. They're like, we have a Europe vacation. We have to go. We planned this. No one wants to watch your cat. You have to come back home.
Otherwise, we're thrown in the wild.
Otherwise, you have to do it. They kind of guilt tripped me into coming back.
How long were you there?
In Brazil, like, I don't know, 3 weeks. I was going to stay there indefinitely.
You're just
I was
like,
gonna
this is
stay.
the
I was like,
home.
I was going every day to the cafe, internet cafe.
Well, how are you making money there? How are you surviving?
Listen, the currency was 1 to 15.
Oh, so you were living like a king off of what you had.
You can live for $15 a day. I mean, as a king.
Yeah, true. Okay, so you were fine.
If you just want to get by, $2 to $5 a day would have been fine.
Damn. Okay, so you're not worried
it
about
was
money.
cheaper for me to stay there.
Right, you're like, it was financially responsible, really.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, and I got offered, they're like, you can buy a mansion here. A mansion in Brazil was $30,000. $30,000. We're talking about with like maids, service, beachfront view.
Crazy. Yeah, so at that point, you're like, why would I come home?
And I still had $750,000 in which I've never touched, which was a huge mistake.
You're like,
imagine if I took that.
Yeah, I should have touched it.
I should have
You would have been the kingpin of Brazil. You would have had like a whole empire.
I would be a Brazilian artist right now. So anyway, so I got back to LA and I started doing photography. And so another interesting fact. So one of my friends from high school, he's like, my roommate's moving out. If you want, you can move into his room. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn it into a photo studio.
All right.
So we're talking about, I don't know, 8 by 10.
Tiny
room.
Like, take a picture there.
Right.
Picture. All right, I took one place.
Where I had to live and turn it into a studio. So I bought, listen to this, blow-up furniture.
You just blow it up and then put it back down. So you had an air mattress you slept on?
Not just an air mattress. It was like a designer line that I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's literally like a beautiful orange blow-up mattress and a couch and 2 chairs.
You're like, come on over, baby. Hold on.
Yeah. I had an electric pump. Yeah.
You're like, we were okay.
So then I also bought rented for the day for the photo shoot. I rented, I think I bought it, parachute fabric.
Okay.
So which I would throw over the carpet to make it look like a studio.
All right, so you had the whole setup.
I had the whole
rigged
set,
it.
and everything that I would deflate it and put it in the slidable closet, and I had a studio.
I love that.
All
the
right.
blow-up studio.
Yeah, and I would literally, maybe I would, you know what, come to think about it right now, it explains my back problems right now.
You're like, I didn't have it. It was all air.
It was all
I was
airbag.
sitting
I was
on
on
air.
an airbag, yeah. Or the floor if it was too long to,
You're like, hey, that's too late. I'm not blowing this thing up. Just
yeah.
pass it out.
And then if the shoot was over, I was too tired, I would just throw in the bed right in there, and I would sleep with all those lights on me, turn it all off. But it's a very interesting sight. If someone would come in, what is going on there?
Don't worry, just let me sleep. I'm
What is
tired.
what is going on there? Yeah. Anyway, so, but that was the moment where it was very crucial for me to pursue something I was really passionate about.
Right.
Like, it was important to me.
That's when you realize it could actually be a career, not just a
Well,
hobby thing.
I just realized that it doesn't matter how much money you make if you're not happy.
That's true. Think of all the Wall Street guys and all these people that are just making tons of money and miserable.
And I was like, you know what, this is great, but going to work for me was a dread. Like waking up in the morning and doing all that.
Right, you go to bed with anxiety. You're like, I gotta do this again tomorrow.
So what happened is, I got, I was doing the photography. Then I was kind of running out of money because I think at that point, I still didn't cash the stocks, but I was running out of money.
Right.
And so I finally I got offered a job at Edison. And that's the company we're talking about, was like at least 10 years behind.
Right.
Okay. So that was the worst job
It was
of my life.
Oh God.
And it is probably what pushed me, was the final push to do something creative. So I put a lot of work and effort into this thing, into Edison job, just to find out one day that they're going bankrupt and they're cutting all the contractors.
So you were gone.
I was gone.
You're just
like
a
this.
number.
So I was driving home, and this was like literally the thought that crossed my mind. I'm like, all right, from now on, I'm going to make a promise to myself, a commitment, that I will never take another job just for the money. It has to be.
You have to like
I
it.
have to be creative. And I was like, you know what? I love photography. I've been doing it. I'm gonna focus it 100%. And I promised to myself I'm not gonna take any other jobs. I'm just gonna go all in.
Right.
So we're talking about, someone who was making 15, 16 grand at 25 at that age was a lot of money.
Right. Yeah.
To making zero with no backing.
Yeah.
Because at that point, so that was maybe 2 months before I was trying to cash out the thing, right?
And
so
then-
I kept hoping it's going to come back.
I guess it's gonna bounce.
Yeah, it's gonna, and it just kept dropping.
the
and
worst, and
dropping.
you look like-
and you're like, I can't cash it now. It was 75. It's 5 now.
Exactly.
Well, it's 3 now. You're like,
Oh,
no, it has to
I
come
don't-
back.
and then
has
it
to
just
come
never
back.
does. Like,
Right.
fuck.
And it never came back. So yeah, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. So while I was still at Edison, with the income I was getting, I knew I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to do that. So I rented like a loft in downtown.
Okay.
And as I was coming home from work, I would, work on setting up the studio till like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So when they told me, don't come tomorrow, it was like I was already in the position where I was set up to just take it seriously,
Just
go
do
full
your
time.
own thing.
Yeah. So that was I know the date. It was April 9, 2002 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Just
all,
11 days before 420. Perfect.
So that was the day I was driving back, and
You
I'm
said,
like,
fuck this all. I'm
this
changing
is
my life.
Yes, and I'm gonna do that. And it was amazing because like I would wake up every morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean, first of all,
And you had energy, right? You're
I
like
had
a whole
energy.
different, like, you
I
weight
had,
off of you.
Like I had so much creative juice. I'm like, all right, how am I gonna do this? I've never been a photographer before. I know nothing about the industry. But
gotta start your own business.
I'm gonna be a photographer.
Yes.
Right? So, like any progress that's made, you go where you know nothing about, you make the most sort of damage,
Yeah, exactly. You make
So,
your mistakes,
yeah.
you put in your 10,000 hours.
So I did some crazy stuff. I did, the craziest thing I've done is I advertised in LA Times I advertised headshots for $50, $25, something crazy.
You get any bites on that?
I got the craziest people in the world. Like, I am scared for my safety.
And you were just in a room with them? You're like,
Yes.
somebody.
I'm not just in a room. I'm in my apartment.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
I'm
You
in my
invited them all.
loft.
You invited these strangers over.
Yeah, I have a stranger in my, and I've.
And now they know where you live, too.
Yes.
So even no matter what happens,
Yes.
they got your fucking
It was,
address.
but I got to a certain layer of society that I didn't even realize it existed.
you got below the crust. You got this-
So,
God. I can only. Do you have any of those pictures of those lunatics?
I may, unless I might have deleted it just in my moment of like, I can't see this anymore, and it's a psychological trauma.
Oh my God.
It's possible. I did delete a couple clients like that because it was just like, it was not worth looking at the pictures.
You're like, no, this is
yeah,
fucked up.
you just remember the experience.
Did they pay you at least?
Yeah.
You get your money?
I mean, we're talking about $50 or something like that.
Wait, listen, you're making your career, you gotta start somewhere.
Oh my God. I mean, we're not going to get details into that, but I'm just saying that was the
We'll get afterwards when we
Yeah.
stop recording, then I'm going to ask you about that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just lucky I'm alive.
I love that. From that to this insane stuff behind us.
It gets better than that. So as I do that, and then knowing nothing about how other fashion photographers shoot or what they do, the only experience I had was I had this brief embarrassing idea in college that I could model. So I went and I got a photographer to shoot like a.
Were you doing nude modeling?
No. Got like a Z card at that time, right? So all I knew is like when someone would go to me, they would want the pictures. And I was shooting film at that time. And to me, I wasn't just shooting headshots. I was making art.
Right.
So I am not giving my negative to you, man.
True, yeah, true.
This is to
mine.
me. It might be a headshot for everyone else, but the way I approach things, it's like, it's never business. It's always art. Like if I'm putting my name on something,
it's got to be something you stand behind.
Yeah, something I stand behind. I did some crazy stuff. So I bought I was like, all right, I need a really fast camera that shoots like twice or 3 shots in a time of one, so I can give one of them away.
Right.
So I started shooting with slide film. Anyway, I got some agency coming into me, and I actually had them come to my studio.
All right.
Where I had them line up outside of the apartment as they were going into that bedroom that was remodeled as a studio.
You deflated your bed. You're like, all right, they're coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like the audacity, just to come to think of it, the audacity that I had.
That's great, but you had a mission. You were like, fuck it. I decided I'm this, so I'm going to be this.
So what happened is I shot one of the very first time Fashion Week happened in LA. Very first Fashion Week, and that was Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week.
Oh, wow.
This guy who I met through some other fashion show, he's like, hey, I'm doing this magazine, Digital Runway. I want you to cover all the shows of the Fashion Week in LA. So it's like, all right, do you think I've ever done this before? No, right? No. I broke my neck from that. But so I went to every single show, documented it, shot it, whatever.
Were you enjoying it totally? Were you like?
It was so much work. Because first of all, I didn't realize
You've never
Anyway,
done it before.
Never
so you
done
had
it
no
before.
idea what
It's
it was
not my
going to
world.
take. You gotta, you just have to
I mean,
immerse yourself. That's the
so
only
you
way
have to
find
fight
out.
for the spot on the runway just to get people coming in there.
True.
So everyone comes with their own chairs, and if you started like half an hour later or something, another day, they already have their spots marked.
Oh,
so you can't just like. So it's the first rush.
Get your ass kicked if you start getting to someone's
And then they all
seat.
have little chairs where you're like trying to stand over them with like a lens that's like 500.
You're like, excuse me, party. Oh.
And while they're chilling on the little chairs and they got little monopods, while you're holding this whole lens with your thing. Long story short, like in 1 week, man, my neck just gave out. I woke up and I couldn't move my neck.
Oh, I've had bad things, like not that bad,
Yeah,
but
it just gave out.
Oh, fuck, so what do you do?
I couldn't do anything. I was freaked out. Anyway. So, long story short, I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then, so some of the models I shot for their portfolio or something, which I always charged, by the way, which is crazy.
Well, it's good. I mean, you got to put value on yourself or they won't value you.
I think definitely what I've learned about with photography and the fields in general, any field, right? So there's two kinds of people. There's people who are going to do it, and there are people who are going to assist for the rest of their life.
Right.
Because they never in their mind
take the leap.
Made that transition, I'm going to do that, I am good enough.
Right. They always just thought they were a sidekick sort of thing.
So they're like, oh, I still have to learn, I still have to do this. So with any industry, it's like you either do it.
You got to take a leap of faith at some point. You're never really ready. There's no real ready.
But it's a mental thing in your head that you have to know that you are ready. So it's like it's a mental...
Or at least trust yourself that you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah, it's definitely like a mental aptitude or a mental... I'd say 100% of the artists are probably delusional, thinking of some kind of grandiose outcome. Otherwise, one would not be doing. Same thing as actors, same thing as everyone else in an industry like that, where it's like we're talking about 0.0001% of anyone seeing the light of what fame?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're like, didn't Van Gogh only become famous after he died?
Oh yeah,
it happens like
he was nobody.
Life. Exactly,
his whole life he was
nobody.
And if it wasn't for his brother, like no one would even know. And
right,
it was his
exactly.
Brothers
so
hustling.
it could be you could have a whole life of just committing yourself to something and nothing.
No. And then
so it takes courage to actually just fully go for it.
Delusion, and
narcissism too.
Narcissism. Well, it's not. It could be healthy narcissism. Narcissism doesn't mean just I've done this kind of shit before. I can do it.
Right.
So it's more like just you personally knowing that you've overcome some challenges in your life.
I got this. Yeah, it's like the self-confidence.
Yeah. So it's definitely lunacy. I mean, it's absolutely impractical. If you were to ask ChatGPT today, it would probably. Well, you might say, if you're really passionate about it. I mean, I'm assuming it'll probably, try to.
Well, it depends on what persona that you give that ChatGPT. You're like, if it's like
it could be like
it could
argued.
be either.
Yeah,
exactly.
It would definitely be argued. But no, it definitely, takes some of that. So I know nothing about photography. I go into this, and because I know nothing about photography, and I approach it more from an art perspective, and not by the rules,
like tactics and
the rules and the theories and all the other stuff. I just approached it from first of all, the studio that I had while I was at Edison, and I made it into a photography studio. It was like a beautiful 1,200 square feet. It's a studio at American Century Building. It's actually American Cement Building. It's actually a famous building they used in a lot of movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, you had a studio there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a studio there all to myself because they bought the building. It was like I was one of these like in here. They have a project to modify to gentrify the area. It was
so come on
I'm
in.
next to a crack park downstairs. But they're like, yeah,
it's part of the experience, right?
Yeah, and they said in a year you can buy it or something. We will probably be selling it, but right now. So I got lucky. I got the remodeled apartment, the one they showed as this is our model unit.
Right.
So it was already all done, whatever. It was,
so you got the hookup.
Yeah, so it was perfect. So anyway, so learned all the lighting from having that studio. So because I got tired of doing the double slide thing because I wanted to keep the photos and all the models always wanted to take the thing, I was like, you know what? Japan 2001 just came out with a digital Nikon. I am one of the first people who gets my hand on Nikon D1X, the first Nikon D1 that comes out.
Digital.
That's 5 megapixels. 5.
What is it now for relativity?
50.
So it's
Yeah. Yeah. But 5 megapixel camera, right? Maybe less. I don't know. It's 5. I think it's 5.
It was an early model.
Right. First. It was the first model, first one. So I was one of the first people who got to use it. And I was the pioneer. I was like, hey, everyone, you should do headshots digitally. Let's do everything digital. Let's do everything this. And the thing about that, because I also leased lighting, because I had a good credit score back then. So I was able to, I got this amazing lease for Hasselblad and Speedotron lights. And I've set up a studio, like a professional studio, like 20 feet by 20 feet, like 20 by 40, just shooting area where I had.
And at this point, were you starting to feel like you're going to have a career in this all? Like it's
I
working
took
out?
it 100%.
Nice.
I mean, I didn't just take it 100%. I said to myself, I'm not working another day
anywhere
to
else.
pay just for the money. And whatever money I owed, I declared bankruptcy.
Right. Just to,
because I'm not, because of that sort of shock of being fired on the day or just letting go after
after all the commitment, dedication. Yeah.
I was like, it did something, and so I was like, filed bankruptcy. And honestly, it was a mistake. It was unnecessary. Like, $5,000. It was like nothing.
Like you could have handled it. But we do what we sometimes. You just got to follow whatever you think.
I think it was
it
was part of a psychological decision to do that. And I had a new car. I had this beautiful apartment. I was paying it was probably nothing now, but back then it was a lot of money. My monthly expense was probably like $5,000 basically.
Right.
At that time, which was like a fancy place.
Yeah, that's a lot.
With the car and everything. So I had to give away my car. I had like a leased car, returned it because part of the bankruptcy you had to return it. You gotta
give your assets back.
And the place that they were gonna sell me this apartment, they decided not to sell anymore. So I was just stuck renting there. But all of a sudden I had to come up with $5,000 a month from nothing.
So you're like, all right, we got to go on. You're like, you need it at that point. You're not.
So I like with the studio and everything. Digressed there a little bit.
That's all right.
But with the studio, so with the lights that I had, I was able to learn the light and understand the light with the digital camera like no one else. Because a lot of people shot film and they only saw the result after when they developed and things like that. So it's the learning process between the shooting.
You were able to adjust it in real time.
Yeah, I was able to learn about the light so well because it was like firsthand versus like regurgitated experience from the books and the things like that.
Right.
That I really understood in a different way that was taught in the books or something.
You were kind of doing it your own way.
I looked at the light as it's like a ray that will go and will bounce around continuously as it diffuses, but it's not a straight thing. You know. So I've really understood it and I started trying some stuff and I bought some books on some setups or how people do it, and then I saw some really good publications and I'm like, I want to try to recreate that light just to understand it. So I got really good with light, and then I actually went back to film because I started missing whenever I did something digital, it was it was very different when I did it with film. So when I do it with film, there's something magical about the process, maybe the commitment, but also the final product.
Right.
It doesn't matter how bad it is. It's still like an organic work of art.
Right.
The combination of light, chemistry, even accidents that happen in there. Not so much about the person per se.
The accidents are often the best ones.
Yeah. So and most of my work is actually both in photography and art is learning from accidents. like to me, the artwork is, or creating art, it's a dialogue. For many people, it's a monologue where they they express themselves, what they want to do, what they're showing, and whatever it is. But with my work, I believe it's a dialogue because I'm always looking at how it reacts to what I'm doing, what happens, and whatever accidents or something happen during the process, it's like the work talking back to me.
Right, that's like a gift
and
from
I'm like,
the work.
oh, so this is interesting. I didn't know that was going to happen. And what I do with my work is I take that idea for the next work. And that's how actually all my work is transitions.
So it develops from the accidents, then it actually becomes intentional.
But they're all linked. So because what I do is I explore, and like, can I recreate this? I really like this effect. How do I do that?
Right.
And it was the same for me with film. So with film, so to make the long story short, like within 2, 3, 6 months, I'd say 6 months of so after 3 months, I figured out the light. And after 6 months, I was shooting around, and after doing that fashion show, Fashion Week, a lot of models, a lot of agencies, they started approaching me and like, hey, you want to take some pictures? And mostly starting out in agencies first.
Right.
But then some of these models or some other models I met at the club or on the street or in some kind of a fashion show or something like that, they were like, hey, can you do my portfolio? I'm like, sure. And then they bring it to the agency. So what happened is the pictures I was taking of them were so different from what they were used to in the other sort of sphere, especially of known photographers in LA.
Right. Were they receptive to it? Were they excited? They're like, whoa, this is actually something different.
This is something different. We want to use this guy, right? So I started getting, started working with big agencies like Warding, Williamina, Storm. I was talking to some others. So all of these things started to come together.
So you started to make a name for yourself.
And then, of course, there's a lot of, LA is a dark place. Look, it's not everyone thinks oh, LA is Hollywood and everything. It can eat you up. There's a lot of layers of LA.
Right.
Or it used to be. I'm sure it's different now.
I don't know. I think it's still kind of a little like that.
Probably worse back then, I guarantee you. It's a little bit more moderate.
Oh, yeah. Now people have to be a little more.
Now I have to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, exactly. Before there's no cancel culture back then.
Yeah, exactly. So they just did everything.
Oh my God.
So there was a lot of people who were just trying to take advantage of either, the most famous saying. It's that everyone hears now, or at least when I was working in the last couple of years, it's like, oh yeah, well, we're not going to pay you for this, but it's going to get you a lot of exposure.
Right.
And that exposure never pays rent.
Yeah, exactly. Exposure. I need some cash, guys.
So, and there was a lot of that, and this one hustler, he showed up. I don't know if I should say his name, but anyway.
To not be named.
I have some stories. So he's like, yeah, well, there's, you're the photographer I know. I'm going to tell you, you're going to go, shoot this celebrity. I can't tell you the name until you get there. But, I get 50% royalties and all the, things and all the other stuff. It's like, I don't know. He showed me this whole contract. I don't know. Anyway, I went there. It was Paris Hilton.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it was Paris Hilton. And that was at the time when she was trying to be in every single commercial, music video.
Was it after The Simple Life or?
That was before Simple Life.
Oh, okay.
That's before that. So she was really trying to get out there and just to be famous. So she was putting herself into everything. So I'm like, who is this?
You're like, what? Okay.
I was like, Paris Hilton. I was like, Hilton. You mean the daughter of Hilton? Like, yeah. I was like, all right. I'm like, okay. So I was like, I was supposed to shoot her. She was doing this music video with Wan G. And Wan G was this Haitian rapper who was supposed to make his way through by being polite, not using curse words and
the clean rapper.
Like clean rapper, right. So anyway, he was really happy that she was with him there at the video, I'm sure. She was just getting any attention she could. And then she asked me to shoot her. I was like, all right. So I try to shoot. I come in, I try to shoot her. And she's very posy. And to me, like, I don't do well with posy. Like,
It's
to
not
me, it has
natural.
to be,
You want more
real.
natural.
Yeah, so it has to be more real. So I was like, you know what? I'll be right back. You just stay right here. She's like, oh, okay. So I saw like a spot like across.
To go
from me.
just take some pictures without her knowing.
Yeah.
You're like, you're gonna be
so
natural.
I set everything up, and I went up there and I took some snaps from a different angle where she didn't know I was taking snaps of her. And I got like these amazing pictures of her, like she just got engaged with her boyfriend at that time or something, so she was looking at a ring or talking on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And so I did all that, and I'm like, oh, wow, it's great. So I put this stuff into my portfolio. And as a tech guy, right, I am a little faster with the combining marketing, social, whatever, with trying to do business.
Right.
So before the email lists, email campaigns, listen, I was one of those first people before spam was spam. People used to open those emails.
Click at all the links.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, someone messaged me.
Yeah. So before that, I actually exploited Yellow Pages.
Oh,
So I actually paid for an ad in Yellow Pages. And I used Yellow Pages instead of an actual digital bank, whatever.
Right.
And I did like flyers, hands-on physical flyers where I went to like print shop and I said jewelry pictures to the jewelry people. I did still life pictures to like fashion people.
Specialized marketing. That's good marketing work right there.
I did that. So that was pre-e-commerce.
How'd it go?
It went well. I got like couple fashion brands. I got Chinese Laundry, who is like famous now.
Wow.
I got what's the other one that popped up really big with all these LA something. Anyway.
I'm not a big fashion guy.
Yeah. So some of the brands that are very famous right now.
Amazing.
Which also opened up some other doors to like I shot Queens of Stone Age. Through that, and then through the fashion show. So besides Paris Hilton, right? So I also did this. The guy who asked me to shoot the fashion show, Digital Runway, his name is Brian Olson. He's like, hey, I have this Chinese actress, by Ling. Her. They liked your pictures. They want to see if you want to shoot her for the story in the magazine that's coming out, China Post.
Right.
So I was like, sure, great, send her over. And I shot like a few classic black and white pictures of her walking around Hollywood and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, did I say her name was Mai Ling? It's not. No, it's another girl. So she's an actress.
Not Lucy Liu?
No, not that known. Gosh, we'll have to add the part later. Anyway, the magazine loved what I did because like black and white classy, and they're like, when we have this special issue coming up next month about Bai Ling, the Chinese actress. She was in a lot of movies. I can't remember which ones right now, but she was famous.
Well,
and she was like a socialite, right, at that time. Like, can you shoot her for our next issue? And we give you a cover and a spread. And I was like, of course. So we're talking, this is probably my first big assignment. So I call all the stylists I know. I go to these, rep houses, get the best clothes, try to do everything I can. And I meet with Bai Ling. I was like, look, I know it's important to you because this is the first time she's being welcomed back to China because she was banned and blacklisted after doing a movie with Richard Gere called Red Corner.
Okay.
And in this movie, I don't know. I haven't either. And but I know she's naked in that corner. No, she's naked in that movie, and that's why.
And they didn't like that.
They was like it was bad for the country, something, right?
Right.
So I was like, look, I know this is really important to you, so I am gonna. I want to do this shoot like not like 1 or 2 hour like most celebrities do. I'm like, let's spend a couple days. Let's spend 2-3 days doing the shoot. I'm like, would that be all right with you? She's like, yeah, all right, we can do it. That sounds good. So I gave her all these crazy ideas. where she was riding on a Harley motorcycle, when she was doing a sword thing, where we photographed on right when they built the Disney Opera Center by Frank Gehry.
Yeah.
So with that in the background, crazy kabuki makeup, swords, the craziest. I just went all crazy. And I sent it in. And they call me back and they're like, well, this is very different.
You're like, that's what I do.
From the first, black and white classic stuff you sent us. I'm like, this might be too much for our culture right now. It's like, and then on top of that, so because of the whole blacklisted thing, I actually did a shot of her sitting naked inside of a red corner, like symbolizing the movie.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
They're like, ew, we're trying to welcome her back here. This is a little edgy.
And they published it.
Oh, they did?
They did. And I got the cover and published everything. And what happened is because Ling, she had her own agent at the time and everything, she loved the shoot, right? And she was like, told her agent. And guess what happens like a month later? I get a call out of the blue. I'm thinking like a prank call or something like, hey, I'm the agent for a couple actors. We have Idris Elba flying in tomorrow. We really need, the whole thing would be a godsend if you can do it. And I was like, sure. So I go and I do the Idris Elba, I do a huge thing, the headshot they uses for the next 10 years.
Wow.
I start shooting some other celebrities from this agent. Start shooting music records from some of the people I met. So I'm doing covers.
So your whole life is coming together in this creative way.
Yeah, I'm doing this, and so I'm started using e-commerce, where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy a database of all the advertising agencies. I'm gonna buy all the executives, all the magazines, all the fashion industries. I put together an e-commerce thing with my photos, information. And I'm giving too much information.
This is good. We got the inside scoop.
So what I did is, let's say if the companies were on the East Coast, I would say I'm based in New York and give a New York number. If the companies are based in the South, I give a South.
Flew over there if you.
Yeah. So basically, they would never be discouraged by me being too far.
You're like, hey, I am wherever you are.
Yes, and I did the same with Paris and New York and London.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Backfired a little bit. So, but so I sent on my book, and I got calls back from McDonald's. I got a call back from Banana Republic. And Banana Republic was like, hey, we really love what you did with Paris Hilton, the combination of orange and blue colors. We really like it. We would love if you could send your book to us, right? Now, let me tell you something. This is my 6 months into being a photographer. Do I know what a book is?
You're like, what the fuck? I'll see you. Let me send it to you. What the hell do you guys want?
So oh my God, dude. You know the little family albums, they sell 4x6 from like Kmart or something?
Yeah.
So I got one of those in leather because it was nice. Put a bunch of 4x6 pictures in there from my portfolio.
Sounds logical.
Yeah. And I mean, oh my God, dude.
Did they, they like it?
The phone call I got was, we received the book. Wasn't really what we were expecting. And but we'll get back to you.
Oh God, it didn't work out. Hey, you gotta learn by trying sometimes.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like the e-commerce it was a combination of knowledge of all these things.
That's great. It all came together.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of my fashion photography career. So that kind of bloomed out. I started doing some editorial celebrity fashion work for West Coast. And then I got a call from the East Coast. I was supposed to do like this big music album cover. And then last minute they figured out I wasn't in New York.
Oh shit, so they're like, yeah.
And they canceled. They said that the legal team cannot be responsible for you flying over if anything happens or something like that. So I was like, all right. So that was it. Anyway, that finishes the LA chapter.
That's great. By the way, we're an hour and 7 minutes in, so we're gonna need to wrap soon. But this is gonna be like
I warned you.
It's exactly what I expected. We'll do a multi-part series.
Yeah, that's good.
What I want to do is, I know there's a million different things, and we have a lot of topics, so we're gonna definitely do a part two of this. But I want to show some of your art.
Yeah.
Like I want to maybe do like kind of as we close out, just like walk around, and if you want like, it's so funny because we're talking about photography, I'm like, but then this.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Let's do that. Let's transition a little bit, everybody, as we close out.
You want to stop this one? So.
Yeah, let's pause. All right, y'all. So here's what we decided is we're going to do another part of this podcast in the near future, but we can't wrap this one without him at least talking about his insane art and
And this
what's
is probably
behind
the
it.
only thing you're going to see. You're probably not going to see the other one.
We're going to get
Yeah.
to
So this is the new podcast.
this
There
is
you
the
go.
new podcast.
Yeah.
We're starting
Try number 2. Take 2. Take 2.
All right, tell us about the concept of all this. I've always been very intrigued by this art, by the way, and I'll bring the camera closer so you can see, but it's just very textural. I'm just actually want to get it closer for a second. It's very textural, like it's 3D. I'm an idiot when it comes to art, so I can't explain it, but that's why Gene's here. But I love it, and I want Gene to tell a little bit about how he developed this style and what it's about.
The style itself actually was born out of an observation, not really an accident, but more like wasn't expecting that was going to happen.
Right, which is where all of the great things came from that you've developed is through kind of not expected things.
Right, and I think when I first discovered it, I was like, "Ooh, this is an interesting texture," so it is beeswax. In case, just to rewind.
You're like, the texture is beeswax.
Yeah. Let's talk. The material is beeswax, and I was working on another series completely. It was a photo series that I was working on idea of preservation, and beeswax was a conceptual part that was symbolizing the process of stopping something mid decomposition and showing it to you, like something frozen in ice, but basically, actually, so it stems from long tradition of beeswax being used as a preservative.
Right.
And one of the craziest examples would be, for example, like when Romans would go fight with other territory, and let's say their head general dies, right? What they would do, they would actually dip him inside of a hot wax to preserve his body as they're bringing it back to Rome for the proper burial.
Okay.
So
it's
talking
like
about
a
like
mini mummification
right.
almost.
So talking about like a very exact sort of exaggerated example of preservation. It was used to like preserve bodies.
Wow.
And on every single level, even in icons creation of those, when they did painting, sometimes they would put a thin layer of wax over it to protect it from exposure to sun, exposure to air. So that was the way to use, even an egg tempera was something like that too, similar. I could be completely off right now. But back to the topic. So I was using wax as hot wax, as application over photographs to symbolize, actually it was printed on canvas, but it was to symbolize the stopping of decomposition process, because I was working with decomposing slides that were very beautiful. It was also very organic. Anyway, so when I started to pay attention to what was happening in front of me, I realized that it was a material that was capable of a lot more.
Right.
And to me, it was almost like, a dialogue where it's a door. It's like a portal that for me to discover something, a whole other world.
Right.
And so what I thought about it was like, with photography, with works that I was doing before, they always either had a figure or subject matter. And when you have something like that, it instantly niches your work into like, oh, this guy shoots cars or he shoots people.
Right,
or
just it makes you be one type of thing.
Or like, oh, I don't like female in the things, that's nothing I'm going to hang on my wall, or million reasons that people have a preconceived, notion towards object.
Right, putting you in a box. And
Right,
they feel
instantly.
comfortable.
And that's what actually we do as humans, is like the second we have something unfamiliar, something we need to process it and to associate it with something from our own experience, that we can justify, like, oh, that's what it is. We have to understand it. It's otherwise it drives us crazy.
Right.
And that actually is something I exploit in my work as well, because when you look at it, it looks completely alien. It looks like something you've never seen before. So, I've seen it a million times, so my mind doesn't do that. But to someone who's never seen this type of work before, which I think only like 2-3 people are doing it, then it's it's a trip. Yeah,
again.
it's probably interesting to show.
I want to try to get the angle, like the texture.
But the texture is so organic at the same time that it's very easy for us to compare it to something we have seen in real life. It could be mountains, it could be a macro of a human cell, it could be a texture of an animal, it could be a view from the top from the mountains, it could be all kinds of things, like literally no anti-imagination, which is just fuel completely based on your own personal experiences. So when I saw this beeswax wanting to show me something, I was like, you know what? I'm going to step back from niching my work right away, and I'm just going to focus on what this material is trying to show me. Because with my work, a lot of times I was focusing on things that were happening in naturally organic. Whether I was a fashion photographer, whether I was whatever photographer, or whatever I'm doing art photography, to me it was always about organic interaction. Something happens naturally. Me capturing a beauty of life, whether it's a conversation or whether it's a crack through the wall.
Right.
That I'm like, hey, no one's paying attention to this, but I like the texture.
Right, there's art behind it.
There's
beauty in
there.
There's
beauty in it. And with my work, with photography, going back to film and trying to do all these different experiments with how the chemistry reacts, how the light reacts, how the lens reacts. What if I mess up this? What if I mess up this? What if I use a different chemistry? What's going to happen? So I was very interested in what the object would do organically, right? And what it would teach me. So to me, it was just like, you know what, why am I going to narrow the interpretation to just a car or a person? What's going to niche me? Why don't we focus on the thing itself? And this thing was like everything I wanted to show. And I was like, you know what, this is the simplest way for me to show the beauty of the world, the beauty of things that are happening around us, the things that we overlook. So
keep sharing. I'm gonna show stuff while you're talking.
The simplest organic reaction is something I should focus on to show how beautiful it is. And so with applying wax, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna remove the figurative background, and I'm just gonna see what it does. So I started building it up, and I've noticed that over hours of applying the wax over and over and over again, through the process called accretion, it becomes into a pattern. It's an organic pattern that keeps growing, and you're literally, watching the entire world being formed in front of your eyes over many hours. But it takes a certain amount of mental state to be able to do that. It's almost sort of like a Zen state, because as you're doing this, you have to be completely aware that you are, it's almost like looking at the mirror of your emotions, because it's really going to reflect whatever you are doing at the time. So with these works, it's many hours of, working on them and just making sure that one part doesn't get higher than the other part, just keep doing it. And each layer has its own unique color. So as you're looking at this, it's not like some drips of wax. We're talking about thousands and thousands of layers of wax applied on top of each other. And each layer is capable of having its own unique color. And it probably does, depending on the concentration of the pigment I put in and things like that. But this is basically, if you were to think of it, it's like painting with a paint that's hot.
Right.
And as it's hot, as it cools down, it becomes something. And the material itself is very unique, because when I started working with it, I quickly realized that it can be such a chameleon. It could look like a stone. It could look like a matte surface. It could look like a rock. It could look like an animal. It could look like, mimic absolutely everything. But what it was doing is showing me its own world. And I made everything from landscapes to creatures to understanding how the entire universe was unveiled.
Right.
And that was just in this one single material. And that made me think about this series as like a way to understand about the universe, and that idea of a universal DNA, a universal code, where it is in every single material, and every single material in here, in this world, can basically create an entire life.
Right.
Just by the code that's within anything, you know. And that's within us, that's within that. And what I've also realized that, you know, a lot of times people think of life as something that's biological, eating, breathing, but this is also life.
Right, in a different way.
In a different way, because it has growth, it has birth, it has rebirth, it has destruction, it's exposed to different elements, it has a cycle of life of its own. And it mimics exactly the same organic principles that are the entire universe is revolving around.
Right, so everything not so different from each other after all.
No. And so when I look at these works, this particular part of the series is called Landscapes or Dreamscapes. And I'm looking at this just a particular way as a macro or micro terrain surface. But, you know, this is basically, each one of the works might be different colors, might be different texture, but each one of the works is almost like a glimpse of another universe. So when I was making these works, I was thinking like, you know what? I'm almost like a collector of universes.
Right.
And like
right.
I go like on a little spaceship, and I go and I take a little sample of the work, and I put it in my like gallery of this soil, you know,
right,
whatever.
So all this is little samples of the universe.
Yeah, and so my idea was for a while to make some of these works just all square, just the idea of like physical like sample, because that can replicate forever. Because the idea was this homogeneous sculpture and texture that didn't have a focal point. The focal point was actually the simplicity and the coherence of the piece as its own organic sort of like being.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to look at it.
And the interesting thing is like, you know, I can't even call it a painting. It's like a 3D wall sculpture, but it's not really even that, because if you think about it, like when the painters paint something, they are recreating a 2D version of something that's already present there.
Right.
So this is a simplification of like, it's like a JPEG of a thing, right?
Right.
So when I'm doing this, I'm not actually replicating anything that's out there. I'm letting something be through it, like almost like speeding it through time.
It's a new thing.
It's like it's its own universe. So what I'm giving you is actually an entire little mini universe, you know, like a little, what are those called, microcosmos cycles, like, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So each one of this is kind of that. And I mean, some of my works, like I can show you, they actually change over time.
That's very cool.
So I think I'll have one in here, maybe two, but there's one here. That's like an example of that kind of work, where I work with like crystals, where things start to crystallize and grow and change, and, you know, it all affects it.
I love that, my man.
Yeah.
Listen, we covered so much. All right, next time we're starting the conversation with the universe and how the world works. So that's what we're going to pick up next time.
Right.
But this has been an awesome conversation. I loved discovering more about your journey. So I appreciate you being on here.
Thank you for coming.
Give some final words, man. For anyone out there who wants to do something that's fulfilling in life, maybe they're kind of wanting a change or experiencing something. What are your final words for the people who want to just get out there and actually have a life that means something to them?
Listen, I don't want to be responsible for your,
You're responsible
for your financial troubles as you grow older. So just remember, the words are not mine actually, but of another artist I've met recently in Paris, and we were just talking about something. But he brought up a very interesting point, which is I'll let you guys also think about on your own what it means to you. But he said one thing. He said, art didn't choose me. I chose art. And there's a big difference, because there's a responsibility and understanding what comes with that responsibility. So it is a personal choice, but I do urge you guys to make those personal choices that are relevant to you, no one else. And if it makes you happy, that's all that matters. And if you like it, that's all that matters. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the process. Like life is about the journey, not the end. Same thing about the art. The art is a medium, to me, where you are able to transfer some of your energy, some of your thoughts, whatever you're doing, and that's something that will impact others if they ever see it. These may never be seen.
But as long as you're happy, I think the point here is as long as you're happy.
Yeah. But as long as you're able to do that, I think that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give something that we're really passionate about.
Amazing.
Could be kids too. I mean, you know.
That's art, baby.
Yeah.
Wise words, my man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, dude.
All right, man. Everyone, get Gene's art, all right? But I'm going to get it first.